Good morning, everyone. My name is Kiriakos Tsaousiotis, and I am representing the Department of Management Science, Technology and the University of Western Macedonia. Today, on behalf of my co-authors, I will present our research titled Benchmarking European Talent Attractiveness, a PROMETHEE evaluation of migrant integration regimes. Our goal is to shift the traditional paradigm from merely looking at GDP to adopting a macro talent management perspective. Let's start with the problem. Europe is currently facing a severe demographic decline and a rapidly shrinking labor force. Traditionally, migration in Europe has been viewed either as a border security issue or humanitarian crisis. Furthermore, when we talk about talent attraction, we link it by default to a country's economic size or GDP. However, we argue for a macro talent paradigm. Talent management is no longer just for private corporations. Today, whole nations must compete as employers to attract skilled human capital. So our main research question is, can economic power by itself guarantee talent attractiveness, or do socio-economic integration policies matter more? To answer this, we used a multi-criteria decision-making method, specifically PROMETHEE 2. Why PROMETHEE? Because it's ideal for evaluating complex real-world problems. It allows us to compare non-comparable data, for example, evaluating a country's legal framework against its unemployment rate to calculate a final net outraging flow. Our sample consists of 6 distinct European welfare models to capture the continent's diversity. These include Portugal, Sweden, Germany, Poland, Greece, and Spain. As you can see in this table, our evaluation model is built upon 9 specific criteria strategically grouped into the 3 main dimensions. First, we measure policy indicators which represent a country's soft power, such as the MIPEC score and the ease of access to nationality. Second, we measure socio-economic outcomes representing real-world integration like employment gaps and overqualification rates. Finally, we measure administrative pressure, which reflects the friction in the system primarily measured by the absolute volume of asylum applications. Here we present the final complete ranking and the net flows calculated by PROMETHEE. The results are quite revealing. In the first place, we have Portugal securing a strong positive net flow, which clearly proves our integration attraction hypothesis. But the most striking finding is what we call the paradox of power. Germany, despite being the economic engine of Europe, falls to the fifth place with a negative flow. Finally, Greece occupies the sixth and last position, suffering from severe structural inefficiencies. Let's see why this happens visually. This is the Gaia plane, which visualizes the mathematical conflict between our criteria. The red decision axis points directly towards our top performers, Portugal and Sweden. Notice how the integration vectors like MIPEX and citizenship coordinate and point in the same direction. However, look at the vector representing asylum pressure G9. It acts as a massive counterforce pointing forcefully towards Germany and pulling it away from the optimal decision axis. This visualizes exactly why economic power is not enough. Moving to our two performer, Portugal acts as a legislative magnet. What is fascinating here is that Portugal effectively compensates for its smaller GDP through extreme legislative openness. Its top performance in the MIPEX index and its outstanding framework for access to nationality prove a crucial point. It is institutional hospitality and clear citizenship pathways act as superior macro talent magnets. Soft powers wins over pure economic size. On the other hand, Germany illustrates the paradox of power. Despite having the strongest economy and massive labor market demand, it falls to the fifth position. Why? Because of the saturation effect. The overwhelming volume of asylum application acts as a veto variable. This extreme administrative burden creates a bottleneck that completely neutralizes Germany's economic incentives. Essentially, when an administrative system exceeds its carrying capacity, the marginal utility of migration turns negative. Finally, Greece occupies the last position with the highest negative net flow. The data mathematically confirms a state of structural inefficiency and what we term brain waste. The underperformance here is not just due to border pressure, the failure is primarily internal. Greece has the highest employment gaps and the highest overqualification rates. The sheer lack of fast-track recognition and the labor inclusion mechanisms prevents the retention of human capital, trapping Greece in the role of mere transit zone rather than a destination. Based on these findings, we propose three strategic recommendations. First, a paradigm shift. Attractiveness is a radius of integration opportunity versus administrative friction. GDP alone is not enough. Second, in the European Union must end the one-size-fits-all approach and shift from quota-based border containment to genuine talent partnerships. Third, we need a burden sharing ecosystem. Saturated nations like Germany should sponsor integration programs in new destinations like Portugal to mitigate regional brain waste and optimize talent distribution. To conclude, our research demonstrates that the global race for talent in 21st century will not be won solely by the strongest economies, but by the most agile and inclusive administrations. Soft power is becoming the ultimate competitive advantage. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I will be happy to answer any question.